Alrighty guys, so we're back again with another PC building video. So now we're going to be going in through our RAM. So we're going to be showing the different types of RAM. Why would you want more expensive RAM versus cheaper RAM? It honestly just depends. Okay, so let's get into it here. So this is going to be your RAM. So your cheaper RAM is normally going to look like this. I mean, see, 4 gigs of RAM. It's a pretty cheap piece of RAM. I mean, here, we'll install it. It's 35 bucks, 4 gigs of RAM. I mean, why would you want to pay more for RAM? But the answer to that question lies in that RAM stick here. So let's look at this again. So if we're going to install some RAM, you see the megahertz here? This is 2133, okay? Now this is 4,400 megahertz. So you think, why would you'd want to, or why would I care too much? I mean, it's 4 gigs, isn't it the same than another? Let's say if we find another 4 gig stick in here, they're exactly the same, even if they have different megahertz, but no, they're not. This is going to run slower. So you can have as many gigs of RAM in your computer as you want, but if you have a lower megahertz, it's not going to matter too much. So if you're gonna, let's say if we wanted to put 16 gigs in, so we put 4 sticks of this in. You're gonna run. They have to be the exact same megahertz. Never go into your computer and put different megahertz of RAM. You will end up destroying your PC slowly. It won't. It'll increase. It'll just, it sucks. Yeah. So you're gonna want to go for your. It depends on like your budget. So budget RAM. This is a budget computer. So the budget RAM I'm gonna say is around 3,800 megahertz. So this is 36. You could go for 36. We'll go for 36 here. This stuff is gonna be a little more expensive. See, 130, not a budget breaker, but yeah, it's a little more expensive here. So we're gonna open these. We'll install another stick of this, I think. Right? Where's the? Stay down here a little ways. Right? Where's it at? Where did it go? Here it is. So this guy right here. So we're just gonna install 2 sticks of this. Okay. Oh, come on, install. There we go. So when you pick out a motherboard, there's this thing. With certain RAMs, so we'll take a look at this guy here. This is a good representation. So you'll see like there's 4 RAM ports, and you think, oh, let's just line them up 1, 2, 3, 4. But most of the time you can't do that. You're gonna have to put them in every other. So if you're gonna have 2 sticks of RAM in, put them in every other port. Don't put them in next to each other. Now with this computer, it's not gonna matter too much. But see, I still did because it's a default habit for me. But yeah, so. Why? So then you would probably, a question that's coming across your mind is, what is the difference? Like, what is the difference between the RGB RAM and just the normal RAM? Like, say if you have a megahertz that's 400, see, it's 4,400 megahertz, 4,600 megahertz, and you're gonna have these. Where's an RGB RAM? You need an RGB. I already hear 40,000. So why are those more expensive? And the only reason they're more expensive is because they look cool. They just do. So if you want to go for more style points on a PC, if you have a lot of funds, so say if you have 10,000 bucks to build one, oh yeah, for sure, go for the RGB. But like I said, if you're wanting just a cheap PC that's like $1,000, $2,000, it's gonna be able to run. This is what you're gonna want to go. I'd go 38. Like I said, 36 will get stuff done. See, it says right here, RAM is a short-term memory for PC, but it's pretty small, but much quicker to access than a hard disk. Very true. So yeah, it is just like that, basically. Let's swing over really quick to our more expensive guy here. So what? I mean, see, we're already up to 2,000 bucks, and we only have like a couple parts in. So this is, I mean, obviously it's going to be one of your really high-end PCs. But here I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go personally with an RGB RAM. It just looks cool. So this is your Vengeance. This is your RGB Pro 36. So if you're gonna go RGB, go ahead and just go all out with the speed. So see, this is an RGB. It's 4,700. That's, I think I'm gonna go with this 4,700 Corsair Vengeance RAM. So we're gonna install a piece here. It depends on what you're going to be playing. Depending on how much you're going to want to have. I'm going to go with 4 sticks here, I think. Just because it's going to, oh crap, did not mean to click that. It's gonna just give it the maximum power that's able to be given. So yeah, we'll go like that, and then we'll install one more stick on this right side here. So we'll scroll down here one more time and we'll pick it up. So this is your Vengeance RAM. And there we go. So that's it. So this computer's obviously going to run faster. It's going to run games so much better than this one is. But I mean, hey, if you're okay with running stuff on medium settings, graphics wise, and or running one, say if you're going to run Fortnite, if you're going to want to run that at like 60 to 100 frames, I mean, go ahead and get a cheat or build a cheap PC. I mean, it's not like it's gonna, yeah, it's nice to have just a PC that's gonna do. But like I said, this isn't just for gaming. Like, you could use this in everyday as well as gaming. But don't go all out and just buy a really expensive PC for just like work. Like, if you're gonna want to work, just go with something like this. I mean, this is gonna 16 gigs of RAM. This will easily get your job done, like easily. So yeah, so this RAM's in. It'll light up, obviously, different colors. This one won't as much. Speed wise, this one is gonna go a little bit faster because, see, it's 4700. It's gonna be pretty quick RAM. Later you can, I mean, this processor is able to be overclocked, not by a ton, but you could. So say if you want to go cheap and you want to overclock a little bit, so that means that an overclock is basically when you take your RAM and you bump up the speed that it defaultly came at. So say if this is 2700, we could bump this up to, let's say, I don't know, 5000 megahertz. You can bump it up a little bit as long as it has enough power and as long as it doesn't get too hot. So the most of the time when they defaultly come, the reason they're not is because it depends on each person's computer. It's going to depend on how how much airflow they're getting, so how hot their computer is going to be normally. So that's why it honestly just depends on the person per PC. So they do an estimate. They just give you an average of what an average person PC runs at is where they're going to set the card for temperature wise, so it doesn't defect the performance too much. So yeah. So you can also, I guess we did do a processor last time. You can also overclock these as well. So this one is a 16 core. So with overclocking, you do megahertz per core. So this one is only like 4700 megahertz or something like that. It's not super big, and it has 16 cores. So, I think it's actually 18 cores. So if you divide them out, each one doesn't even have that much megahertz, when like on most you can run almost up to 1000 megahertz per core. So think of that, 16,000 megahertz. That would be insane to game on. Like, that's why it's nice to have. Now, most of the time you wouldn't need to overclock with this high end of a processor, but I mean, if you're wanting to get just raw power and performance, it's a simple way to go. Or if you're going to want to say, I'm going to spend more expensive money on a PC, less money on a video card, then do that. Like, you're going to get, you can overclock your processor, or make it so it'll pick up where your video card can't. It'll help your video card go faster, or opposite way around. I want to buy a cheaper processor with a more expensive graphics card and then overclock the processor. Well, there you go. Now your processor is running at a faster speed, and then your video card is staying the same. So then you could like get a cheaper processor, but it would still run around the same as a little bit of a more expensive processor. But yeah, that's mainly just going to be it. That's basically it. That's RAM for you. But it's going to help your computer run faster the more RAM you have, but more importantly, the bigger megahertz you have. So yeah, if you want to go inexpensive, hey, feel free. You can still game decently on this. I mean, that's. But if you want a nice computer that's always going to hold out, yeah, this is the way to go. But a big question I get asked is, why would you rather build than buy? I mean, buying is going to be cheaper. So if you're going to want a computer that's going to last you probably 5 years or so, then go ahead and buy. But building wise, it's going to be better because you're going to be able to upgrade your parts very easily because you put them in. So like, say, oh, my processor dies, my PC's not working, well, I'll just order a new processor and install it myself. When with bought PCs, it's harder because compatibility wise between parts is a little bit harder, so you have to find parts that are compatible. But yeah, that's mainly it. That's why I would rather build than buy. I think this one I built, but yeah, I mean, that's just me personally. But yeah, so that's going to be it for this. Next video will be on, here, let me look. What parts have we not gone through yet? We're going to say hard drive next. So the difference between hard drives, why you're going to want a faster, slower hard drive, or why bigger space. So anyway, yeah, we'll be back on the new video very quickly.